Hello, friends, and welcome to the Shaman's View, the news from the invisible world. We already know the news from the visible world, and it's encouraging. Actually, there's some very encouraging things beginning to happen. But from the invisible world, the news are even more encouraging and even more alarming as well. We're going to take a moment or two as our participants have a chance to sign in. And I'd like to begin, like we do in every one of our meetings, with a drumming meditation. And also to invite you next Wednesday, we're going to have a watch party at noon, where I'm going to show you the last filming of the prophecies of the shamans, a gathering of shamans that talk about the times we're going through today and how to use these to quantum leap into becoming a new human and stewards of Mother Earth, stewards of Pachamama. So I'd like to begin with a meditation like we always do. I'm going to drum for us, inhaling to a count of three, exhaling to a count of 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhaling to a count of 3, 2, 3, and stopping at the top of the breath for a moment, pausing, exhaling to 5, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, stopping at the top of the breath, exhaling to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and pausing at the bottom of the breath, inhaling to 3, 2, 3, and pausing at the top of the breath, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhaling to 3, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling to 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Use this breath before you go to sleep at night or when you meditate. This resets your nervous system, resets your fight or flight. Remember, fight or flight has 3 settings: fight, flight, running, and freeze. Freeze is when you can't fight and you can't run, much like the settings that we're in today. And we freeze. And when we freeze, everything freezes. Our immune system, our thinking, our spiritual practice, our personal power. And this breathing practice will help you come to your higher brain, step out of the fight or flight brain and into that visionary brain, that eagle brain that the shamans speak about, where we can fly above any obstacle that we meet, where we can stretch our wings and soar, and always fly wing to wing with the Great Spirit. The breath is how we can control our nervous system. It's an autonomic function. We cannot stop breathing. Yet we can regulate how we breathe so that we enter into a deep state of peace. Dolphins, for example, don't have breathing programmed as an autonomic function. When they become unhappy or sad, they can go to the middle of the pool at the amusement park and stop breathing. They choose to no longer breathe. For us, it's an autonomic function, which means that we can regulate our autonomic systems. Do that breath so that you can come to peace and claim your power, your personal power, to become and to awaken your inner shaman, which is what this program is about. Today, I want to share with you the prophecies of the time to come, of the end of time. The very first prophecy that I heard was actually from the Mayans, and it was shared with the Hopi in North America, because the Hopi and the Mayans share a common conception of the divine called Quetzalcoatl. And this was the promise of the return of the Lord of the Dawn. And the prophecy goes like this. It was left 500 years ago. 7 heavens of decreasing choice and 9 hells of increasing doom. And then the Lord of the Dawn shall return. At the end of the 7th heaven of decreasing choice, the Spanish arrived in Veracruz. And the Aztec scouts, who were knowledgeable of the prophecy, saw these great ships coming with billowing white sails coming from the place of the rising sun of the east. And they reported back to their rulers that the Lord of the Dawn had returned. Very, very big mistake. It was the beginning of the first hell of a decreasing choice. And of course, we know that the Spanish decimated the indigenous peoples with guns, with steel, but especially with germs, with epidemics, with the pandemic of smallpox that they brought with them that the native peoples had no defenses against. In the Andes, there's an Andean prophecy as well. And the prophecy of the Andes speaks about the return, the beginning of a millennium of gold. So they converge, the prophecies of the Andes with the prophecies of the Mayans at this time in history. This is the end of the 9th hell of increasing doom. This is the beginning of the return of the Lord of the Dawn. This is the end of the time of the earth being out of balance. The prophecies in the Andes speak about the Pachacuti, about the setting the world right again. The Pachacuti, Pacha means earth or time, and Kuti means to return to balance or to step beyond. So it's where humanity steps outside of time. It's also signaling the end of an age, the end of an era. Great upheaval, but this upheaval is actually, in the eyes of the shamans of the Andes, a return to balance. Returning back to a balance that was disrupted at the time of the conquest by the conquistadors, where kings and queens and princesses became slaves, and where barbarians that had come from Europe were speaking and preaching about the white god, the bearded white god male from Europe. Very, very disruptive to all of the peoples of the Americas. This was their great upheaval. And now the earth is returning to balance. Now the ancient wisdom is coming back from the deep, fertile soil, from the lower world where it had to go into hiding, and is coming back into our world today. The ancient wisdom is here. And the shamans of the Andes left a prophecy 500 years ago as well, during the Pachacuti, that another Pachacuti would come, that the earth would come back to balance. But this would be an opportunity for the rebirth, for a birth of humanity, for the birth of humanity, maybe for the first time. In fact, if you ask scientists when humans first appear on the earth, they'll tell you about 2 million years ago. When you ask the Andean shamans, when do humans first appear on the earth, they'll tell you right around the year 2012 is when the fully formed humans first appear, first manifest, and they are us. And we have the opportunity to become these extraordinary humans, become superhuman, awaken the qualities of compassion and caring and sustainability and coexistence with all the other creatures in the planet. But this would be a very challenging time. It'd be a very, very difficult time for humanity. And the Andean sages speak about it as the culling of humanity. I first heard the term when I was in Africa, and they were culling, they were killing off herds of wildebeest that had really invaded the territory. The culling of humanity. And this is what's happening today, sadly and unfortunately, as many of us are losing loved ones, and we find this epidemic that is taking the weak and the frail and the infirm. which is many of us, because we have been poisoning ourselves with our food and with our air and with our water. So this is an invitation literally to grow a new body, to become a new human. A new human needs a new physical body, a body that doesn't need to learn through infection. The immune system learns by becoming sick, and you never get sick twice the same way. A body that can learn directly from knowledge, that can download codes without needing to get sick. We know that we can do that today, that we are the human in the making, in birthing ourselves. The prophecies are especially relevant because the shamans of old understood that time did not flow in one direction only, that time would figure eight and press back onto itself, and that you could track back along a person's timeline or along the timeline of humanity to find the traumas, the incidents that separated us from our nature and from nature. And the level of the individual is to find that trauma that caused soul loss. And of course, today we're suffering from a tremendous collective soul loss, where we have been cast out of the Garden of Eden. We no longer belong in the garden. And we are the only people, Western people, the only people in the world to have ever been cast out of the garden. No one else was kicked out of the garden. The Aborigines weren't, the Sub-Saharan Africans, the Native Americans. They were given the garden to be the stewards and the caretakers of the garden. So when I bless my food in a meal, I thank Mother Earth for this bounty and the colors and the beauty. And I also ask, how can I be in service to you, Mother? How can I become an earth keeper? How can I become a caretaker of the garden? And I remember my mentor many years ago, an old medicine man from the Andes, saying to me, Alberto, you are a weeder, whereas I am a gardener. And I said to him, what do you mean? He said, well, your garden, Alberto, you've pulled all the weeds out. All your birth trauma, your mommy issues, your daddy issues, all of the weeds you've pulled out, most of them, but nothing grows in your garden. You don't have any flowers, you don't have any fruit trees. Whereas I'm a gardener, he said to me. My garden is full of flowers, is full of fruit trees. And I have a patch of weeds here and there because wild creatures like that as well. So we need to become gardeners, stewards of our inner garden. Remember then when we were collectively kicked out of Eden, that Eden retreated to the collective unconscious. It's now inside of us. It's inside each and every one of us. And when I journey back to my garden, I find that it's full of flowers today, full of medicinal plants that can heal anything and everything. And when I work with a friend or a client or a patient whose garden is weed-free but nothing grows in it, I know that they're dying. When their garden is not attended, their soul is drying out. I invite you to tend to your garden, to tend to the earth, to bless your food and make a commitment to Mother Earth, to Pachamama. Yes, I am part of the solution. I am a caretaker of the earth. I am a steward of Mother Earth. And then your mother will recognize you and she will look after you. Our mother wants us to be well. Our mother wants us to be healthy. And if we live disconnected from our mother, we will get sick. And when we become sick, when our body is not healthy, then we become susceptible to all of the viruses and parasites and bacteria that are considered so threatening today. Remember that for the shaman, and I am speaking to you as a medicine man and a medicine woman, to awaken your inner shaman, that for us shamans, there's no difference between being killed by a microbe and being killed by a jaguar. In the West, for medicine, if you're killed by a microbe, this is called an illness or a disease. If you're killed by a jaguar, it's an accident. As shamans, we know that we have to be in right relationship with microbes, with viruses, and with jaguars. Otherwise, they're both going to be looking at us as lunch. Reconnect with the mother. Do it in every meal. Dedicate yourself to the stewardship of all creatures, of all beings, and of Mother Earth, and she will look after us. I invite you to come and join me next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we will have a 4-minute video of the reading of the prophecy and how that happened 10 years ago and how it describes the times that we're living in today and the exit, which is the quantum leap into becoming fully human. On Friday, we're having fire ceremony, same time, with 1,000 shamans around the world. So a candle for your fire. We're going to be doing ceremony for the healing of Mother Earth and of each and every one of us and of all of our loved ones. Thank you for joining me today. Stay well, stay healthy, stay holy, and be in communion with our Mother. I will see you soon.